Hey, Colleen.
Hey, Alicia.
Welcome to
Right
Fucking
now.
Now. Welcome back. It's good to see you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back.
You've had a pretty big life development since we last talked. What's going on in your world?
So, my husband and I went from over 3 years on the road in a small camper trailer to renting a condo, 1,200 square foot condo. And so it's been quite a transition.
Yeah, totally.
Yes.
So 3 years living minimally, living very, very intentionally in terms of anything you have with you. I remember
Yes.
being so impressed when I met you guys. You each had like your two or three books, and that's all you have, right? And then you swap them out, and um, yeah, you're
Yes,
very.
to now being in a position of actually needing to accumulate stuff and needing to acquire furniture. And it's been interesting. And I consider myself to be a very adaptable person, which is why I think living on the road worked so well for me. I absolutely loved it. And now that we're stationary, it's bringing stuff up for me. And so I thought maybe we could have a conversation about it.
I love this idea. Yeah, I think lots of times when we have these big transition points or milestones in our lives, yeah, it can bring up for us new contrast, but then with that also
Right.
comes new desires, new wants, new asking. So yeah, I'm curious, what are you experiencing in this process? How has it been for you?
It's been challenging. And the different areas of challenge are the first one is the actually being still
Mm.
and being in one place. And I find myself like, oh well, let's go on a road adventure. Let's go on a road adventure. We've been here 3 weeks today. And it's like, well, that's not this phase of life that we're working on. And so I do think that we're going to create a very beautiful life here as we get settled. It's been unsettled. As I mentioned, we didn't have any furniture, so we're moving here and needing to get furniture. And even that, we moved into a condo that's a mixed use space, live work. It doesn't have any closets. And so
Mm.
I'm a very organized, neat person. And to not have places have a space has been challenging. And
Mm.
even in our camper, and you had been in our camper was a 21-foot camper that two people lived in. And everything had a space. Like the storage in this camper was magnificent and everything had a place to go. And now it's like we have, I don't even know the math of how much extra space we have here, but it's like it's less storage than in our little tiny
Mm.
20-foot camper. So having things not have a home and waiting to buy furniture until we find something we like and not rushing out to try to furnish furnish the entire place at
Mm-hmm.
one go. So there are little things, another like just some challenges, and not to complain because that's what I practice not doing, but just to give some examples for this conversation. We moved here to a mountain town, small mountain town, and most places do not have air conditioning. Well, it's hot. It gets hot here in the
Mm-hmm.
mountains. And so it's 80 degrees with the sun beating on the condo. It gets very hot. So
Mm-hmm.
noticing things that aren't preferences and, well, what are we going to do about it? We've
Mm-hmm.
signed a 2 year lease and now what?
Mm-hmm.
And and then we are planning to open a business here, which I mentioned in our last podcast. And we're having some roadblocks or some things that we have to take care of with that. And didn't expect it. And yet it is. And so with all of this going on, how can I maintain my alignment
Mm-hmm.
predominantly, and have those times where it's those clarifying moments of, this is not what I prefer. This isn't a preference. So, okay, so in this moment, my preference is being born. And what can I practice at this time and during those moments?
Yeah. So so I have a couple thoughts here. I'm kind of hearing four different areas of contrast that we just talked about. And I recently had the opportunity to go to the Abraham Hicks Scandinavia cruise. And I was picked for the hot seat. And so I got to have a conversation with Abraham. Yeah, it was very exciting. And one of the things that I took away from that conversation, which I think applies here, right, is, again, that idea, as we know what we don't want, we do know what we do want instead. And in my conversation with Abraham, where they pushed me, was this idea of getting really clear on what I do want, right? And being very intentional with what I do want. And they even asked me, they're like, well, what are some of the things that you would want based on my moment of contrast? And I said something like, well, peace and comfort, and and they were like, no, not good enough, right? Because what they were calling me out on is my moment of contrast was quite big. It was quite dramatic for me. I used the word shocking, right? And so their point was the other end of the stick is not far enough to reflect that kind of negative contrast that I was having. So what's that super, and so we came up with words like exhilaration and fun and passion, right? And kind of that brought, like, truly balancing out the level of contrast that I was experiencing versus just moving up to that, peace and comfort sort of level. So, as we think about these ideas, it's different. You're in one spot now, right? Yes, you've got a lot more space, but a lot less storage, right? And one of the things I always admire about you is you're so intentional, with the Abraham work, but then also how that translates into your physical world, right? Intentional with everything you buy, and then everything has a home, right? So that intentionality, like, wait, you basically have a world of possibility now, and now it's kind of like, I can't be quite as, confined intentional. So I love that. Hot condo and business hurdles, we can get to those. But I guess what my question is as we kind of think about those moments of contrast, is there one that feels bigger than the others that you've been experiencing?
In moments, they all have felt big, even the ones that are, technically little in the scheme of life. They've all had their moments for me. And I listen to Abraham clips every day, and there was one, and I'm not going to recall exactly now, but there was one that really particularly stuck out and really helped me in this process. And they talked about in each moment we have a choice of what we're choosing to look at, because in one particular moment there are many things happening, which is why we can have different experiences at the same time. And so I can choose to look, okay, so here's an example. In this space that we're in, right next door is kind of a junkyard. And I could focus on that and get upset about it. And I've chosen not to. It is what it is. We don't own this space. Or I can look out the window and I can look at the mountain, which you can't see from my view here. And that's what I choose to do. And if I step too close to the window, I can see what's below there. So I can either step back, or our blinds lift from the bottom, and I can choose. I can be very intentional and not see that, because I know it doesn't benefit me. And so these are the things that I'm getting at the Abraham teachings, is that I actually get to choose. And from not seeing it helps my vibration stay steady. It helps me to raise my vibration and focus on the things that do feel good to me.
I love this analogy. I mean, it's the literal perspective shifting, right? You're
Yes.
shifting your perspective. In a sense, you're standing back a little bit further. This idea of maybe
Hmm.
going a little bit more general, or you're saying like, look, I'm going to block out that portion and I'm not even going to focus on that. That is such a great real life analogy. I
Yes.
love that. What else are you doing to work through some of these contrast moments?
Oh, actually, kind of diffusing when I think of something that feels stressful in the moment. And what I mean by that is either softening my thoughts or even changing the subject and reminding myself that people have been very friendly in this town and very helpful. And so we're going through a process that is not desirable. However, Abraham teaches us that we can have the outcome that we desire, and we have enough time to pre-pave for that. So what am I going to do with this chunk of time that I have between now and the hearing where I have to present my business, which isn't for a whole other month?
Mm-hmm.
It's not even going to happen until September, maybe later. And so I can use this time for my benefit, and I can remind myself, and Graham, my husband, and I can communicate about how friendly people have been and how helpful people want to be, and that they're trying to dot the I's and cross the T's. Nobody's attacking us. It's
Mm-hmm.
the system. And so if we follow the system and we prepay for the outcome that we want,
Mm-hmm.
most likely it's going to go in the direction that we want. So the reminder of how helpful people are, and that we're not being singled out and we didn't do anything wrong, and that it is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. So again, it's that focus idea, that very intentional. How are we going to spend our superpower, right? What are we going to focus
Mm-hmm.
it on? I love that. That's really
And
cool.
and then the other thing that I'm doing is things that I want to do and things
Mm.
that I like to do. And so with moving in and needing basically starting from scratch, we could be spending a lot of time with that, but we're also trying to spend time being creative and taking some hikes and getting out into the town that drew us in, from
Mm-hmm.
the road, and taking time to go out for a meal and meet new people. And so purposefully trying to create that balance. And then another thing for me, as you know, is my self-care. I take that very seriously, and nothing gets in the way of my self-care. So
Mm-hmm.
that is definitely something that I'm still doing.
That's awesome. Um, I think for people to have these kind of easy, accessible things to reach for, right? I went to a thing called Joy Camp at the end of May, and the
Yes.
facilitator there talked about this idea of having your cookie jar of these like easy things, whether it's things that
Yes.
you appreciate or activities that you like to do. To your point, some of your creative endeavors, or you guys are phenomenal chefs, right? Like you love to make beautiful meals and that sort of thing. And so having these really easily accessible things that do bring this
Yes.
joy, kind of regardless of where we're at or what's going on around
Right.
us. So,
I love that. And that reminded me of coming up with things that feel good, and that you have, like you're saying, almost like a toolbox that you
mm-hmm.
have where, okay, these are the things that, so for me, like I have my animal encounters, wild animal
Mm-hmm.
encounters. And so sometimes at night I'll lay in bed and I'll think about the encounters that I have had, and the significant ones, and our great nephew, and how much joy he brings us. And he's
Mm-hmm.
such a happy little guy, a great example of doing what he wants to do and being happy about it. And when I was listening to some Abe clips this week and last week, sometimes they'll find a theme, and it will, maybe it's a concept that Abraham introduced 10 years or so ago.
Mm-hmm.
But this one was one that I never really firsthand experience with Abraham, but I've heard it in many clips, and it's the process where you create a thought in your mind, and you bring something forward, whether it's a memory or you make it up. A virtual reality is what they call it.
Oh, yeah,
and you get in and then you get out really quickly. And so I've been thinking about that with animal encounters, and the idea is that you get in and you like remember the smell or the texture or whatever, the view, and you get out before you remember, oh, the mosquitoes attacked me. Oh, it was so hot. Oh, this, so you're getting in, you're having that beautiful memory, and then you're getting out. And the idea is that as you make this a pattern and a habit, your vibration rises over time, and then you have access to more and more good feeling thoughts.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think too, a thing that I had the fortune of playing with or practicing with some friends on the cruise that we were on is even in that real life moment, and pausing and thinking about the fact that like, oh, this is a great moment, and think about what this is doing for my point of attraction.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And that, Abraham talks about when Esther is out to a good meal or whatever, right? And we're having those fun moments, or I'm just like, I'm feeling so good. That song is on, that, whatever, this coffee that I have is like, oh, it's so good, right? Like,
yes.
Thinking about what that's doing for your point of attraction, I think is for me, another kind of easy one to gravitate to.
Yes, that's fun. And that's, and I haven't done that specific exercise in that way. They used to talk about milking it, right? Yep. Like milking that good feeling. And I love that. And that's something I will incorporate this week.
Yeah. It was interesting. The last session of the workshop, as they were closing out on the cruise, they were saying, we never give homework, but we're going to give homework this time. And it wasn't real homework, but it was their encouragement was twofold. One was to relish more, to savor more, to milk more, to juice more, whatever, right? To really soak in what it is that we're experiencing in that moment. And then the other thing too that I thought was interesting was they said this idea of make more decisions every day. Clear intention and moving in the direction of it. And I thought that was a good one. It was kind of a good reminder for me too, to even be aware of when I'm making those decisions, and bringing awareness to like, no, this is a decision that is intentionally moving me in a direction, or that feels good, or, that is my highest excitement right now. So I thought that was two other interesting ideas to take away from the cruise that, applicable in any of these moments.
Absolutely. And I love that you brought that decision piece up, because it's something that I can touch on, and that came up for me with being in this space for a couple days and feeling like, oh, I haven't made the decision to be here. And I know how powerful decisions are. And it's like, okay, am I really committed to this? And I wasn't, here we signed a 2-year lease, and this is like what we have decided we want to do for the next 2 years. And so many things we're excited about. And yet I could feel the conflict in me. And I'm like, I am not committed. I have not decided, even though we're here, that I am here for 2 years, at least 2 years. And so I really can understand how important that decision piece is, and the power that flows, because I don't need to know any of the outcomes, but I can put my heart into the decision and the commitment of being here, and let it unfold in the best way that the universe has available for me.
Yeah. And that goes directly to one of my other favorite sound bites from the cruise was, here is a state of being.
Oh, explain.
Yeah. So it's that decision. I am here, right now. It's a state of being, right? It's here. Yep. As in right here. I've made this decision. I'm here, and it's a state of being, right? And so So how is here? How am I going to show up here right now? What is my state of being? So I really liked that, and I think it was a just another simple little soundbite for me to go back to.
Yes.
You know, just over the weekend, I hiked Mount Whitney in the Sierra Nevada in California, and it's a very challenging hike. Only about a third of people who attempt it will summit Mount Whitney, and had a great hike on the way on the way up, great hike, felt great, and then on the way down, I caught some vertigo. I had a sugar crash bonk. It was a very, very challenging hike, but two things that I kept on going to was, here is a state of being. So how am I here? How am I now? And I was really relishing the flowers around me. At that point, I couldn't relish the views because I was getting vertigo looking up. But there were all these little wildflowers on the ground as I'm like, focused on the trail and really intentional focus and reminding myself, here's a state of being. And so in that moment of here, I was like, oh, wow, look at all these cute little alpine, tiny little baby wildflowers that I had been missing on the way up, because on the way up, I was looking at this big grandeur, landscape and views and whatnot. And so I appreciated that. The other thing that I reminded myself of, and maybe it'll be applicable for you and your world as you're getting settled, but it was this idea that I have always had what I needed, right? Sure, there might be a time where it feels like there's something I need that I don't have, and maybe there's just a tiny time delay in getting what it is that I need, but I have always had what I've ultimately needed. And so I think that was just, for me, a good reminder to get through those challenging moments of like, oh my gosh, am I going to trip and fall to my death? Am I going to die on this mountain because I can't get off, right? Like, I was being dramatic. I was having the kind of these momentary dramatic thoughts. And it was like, no, I've always had what I needed. I had friends on the hike with me. They got me through my little sugar crash, right? And so I've always had what I needed. It was just a good reminder for me to go back to, and that moment, a pretty significant contrast.
Discomfort, right?
For sure.
Yes.
So,
and when you're talking about the here, right? It's here. Yeah. It reminded me that, like, this moment is the manifestation. So often we're looking out to, well, what's next? What manifestation do I want? And yet this is a manifestation right here, right now. Here is a manifestation.
Yep.
And, as all teachers, spiritual teachers like to remind us, that this is the moment, right? And yet what we choose in this moment dictates what happens in the next, and creates our future manifestations. And that's why this moment is so precious and beautiful, and a deciding factor for us, right? Which way do we want to go? Do we want to feel a little bit better or a little bit worse?
Yep. Yeah. What is here will soon be what is next. And so it tells us what is here, how we're looking at it, how we're experiencing it will define what is next. So
exactly.
It's so true. Well, Colleen, thank you so much for being here with me. I'm curious if you had any closing thoughts before we wrap up today.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here. And I think that I can be stubborn. And so in the moment, am I willing to let go of my stubbornness to feel better? Ooh. Do I want to hold on to my stubbornness because I don't like this situation?
Yeah.
Or am I willing to put the blind up from the bottom and look at the mountain?
Yeah. I love that. Abraham talks about that idea, would you rather be right or would you rather feel good?
Yes.
And I had always thought about that quote in terms of with relationship to somebody else. Make my point, be right, blah, 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 or, let it go, feel good. But I never thought about it in terms of with myself, right? And my own stubbornness. So thank you for bringing that to light. It definitely an experience that I recognize in myself.
Yes. As a stubborn person, I'm well aware of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool.
Yes.
Well, again, I'm so appreciative of you. I love that we're able to do these conversations,
Me
and
too.
thank you for turning your experience of contrast into lessons for all of us.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me and for wanting to hear what I have to say.
Absolutely. Well, we'll have you back again soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alicia. Bye.
Bye.